All right, good evening and welcome to CFI After Dark, our Postgame Show. I'm the Pet Man Matt Marr, getting it started tonight. We're going to talk about action from Friday night, well, obviously tonight, and Thursday night. We had two nights of action. We covered Porter Ridge and Monroe tonight, and then yesterday we covered West Charlotte and Mallard Creek. So I'm going to share this out on our social media channels, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Please post your scores and comments on the side, and we'll talk through a lot of interesting things that have been going on the past two nights for sure, man. The first thing I'll say is, man, what a beautiful night, man. What a beautiful night of weather for football. Actually, really both nights, both last night and tonight. We saw big crowds both nights. They're really getting into the meat and potatoes of the schedule, and a little breeze in the air, man. It felt great. It felt great to be out there on both nights. So um, I want to start with last night. I know we had a lot of great games tonight. I looked at some scores. There's a lot of eye-opening things to talk about for sure. But I want to switch my screen. I've got my scores here. Last night, I want to review a couple things. So, first of all, we were at Mallard Creek and West Charlotte. 17-15 victory for West Charlotte. If you're watching this, I'm sure you've heard about that by now. Um, it was a low scoring defensive struggle like we thought it was going to be. West Charlotte opening the game with that trick pass and taking the 6-0 lead on the 70-yard pass to Davion Jones. And then Mallard Creek coming back in the second quarter in the deep shot to Benjamin Black. And I don't know who can stay with that young man. I mean, he's committed to Rutgers, but I'm telling you, I mean, he's got some major talent. And Mallard Creek took a brief lead, and West Charlotte came back with a touchdown. After Mallard Creek went for it on fourth down at midfield, gave West Charlotte a short field. They took advantage. They took a 14-8 lead. Then the big play was the field goal right before the half, about a 40-yard field goal for a 17-8 lead. Mallard Creek scored in the third quarter. Caleb Knight, the running quarterback, was able to score from about 20 yards out, made it 17-15. But then the three fourth quarter stops in West Charlotte territory in the fourth quarter. First, the interception by Charlotte commit DeQuinder Williams. Secondly, the block field goal. And then thirdly, of course, the now famous goal line stand by the West Charlotte defense. One of the things that I do want to point out was the hustle of DeQuinder Williams when Mallard Creek hit that pass to get down to the 2-yard line. If he doesn't hustle and make that tackle, and that young man scores, of course, Mallard Creek takes the lead, and we could be, talking about a Mallard Creek victory. So, West Charlotte defense, hustle, alignment, physicality, all of that was on display that entire fourth quarter. Just an incredible, incredible performance by those guys to get that big victory to remain undefeated on the season. We had our interviews. We talked with big lineman Fennell Marshall from West Charlotte after the game. We talked with senior linebacker Julian Carmichael. And of course, we talked with Sam Griner, which, if you guys have followed me for a while, we have a very historic relationship back to his championship days at Harding back in 2017. And even before that. So it was great. It's always great to talk to Sam. He's a character, and he's doing a great job, with those Lions on the west side. The producer's here. I'm gonna bring him in. What's up, man?
Hello, hello. Just wanted to pop in for a moment, chime in. What we on with Charlotte and Mallard Creek?
Yeah, what you want to share about that?
Uh, Two great, physical. They may not like to be referred in this manner, but I'm sure a lot of people might call them defensive teams. And you know, their defense puts their offense in good positions. But I think it proved a lot of naysayers wrong as far as where Charlotte go. I think it was a what we'll call a statement win for them. Um,
Oh yeah.
so definitely a statement win. Um, but all is not lost for Mallet Creek. Still a lot of football left to be played by them. Just got to get some more things clicking, maybe with their offense. But statement win by West Charlotte, and just a kind of a learning lesson as far as Mallet Creek goes. So I think it's it was definitely a defensive game for sure, which most of us, both teams scored under 20, which most of us pretty much assumed that's how it was going to be. So kind of played out exactly how we thought it would.
Yeah, and you mentioned a learning lesson for Mallard Creek. I mean, there were a lot of people that were critical of, some play calls and some different things that occurred in that game. Um, the one thing I'll say is, only the coaches, that are intimate, to those kids, know what's best, to run in those situations. And I mean, a lot of people were saying they should have went under center, down the goal line. And I mean, if you don't work on it, it's kind of just hard to do on the fly, So, like you said, maybe there are some things that, you can take away that, you want to, work on and, maybe have, in the future, for those situations. So, absolutely good stuff right there, man. While I got you, let's talk about where we were tonight. Monroe defeating Porter Ridge 28-20. What's your thoughts on that one?
Think I hate to overuse the phrase, but I'm gonna go statement win on their part as well for Monroe for sure. They showed a lot of resiliency to go down 14-0 at home. Not everyone can bounce back from that. Some teams kind of get down on themselves just to go down early by multiple scores, especially in the manner in which they went down. They were driving only down 7 and got a turnover. So,
Mm-hmm.
put them down 14-0. So that can be deflating in some with some programs, but they're a well coached team. As we know, the coach gonna coach in the Shrine Bowl, and I think it showed a lot of character. They showed a lot of character to bounce back. They scored 28 unanswered points after being
Yeah,
down 14-0, and just kind of
yeah,
roared back. And then Porter Ridge got another late one. But as far as the team, they learned that they can get down and not quit and not go down themselves, and they bounce back. Good effort. It wasn't a one-sided win. Good effort on both sides of the ball. You like to see that in special teams. All three phases showed up, and I think it was good for them to see. Hey, they went in, they went down, but they didn't. They knew who they were and showed up and answered. And I always say this, between me and you, I'll say this for everybody. Monroe doesn't care if you're 4A, 3A, whoever comes in and whoever's on the schedule, they're going to show up. So, I think we sometimes put, the classifications are there for a reason, but there's great there's great football being played in all classifications, and I've always admired that about Monroe. They don't back down or get intimidated by a larger school, 3A, 4A. They're going to show up no matter what. So, and they proved that yet again tonight.
yes, they did, man. Absolutely. Um, I appreciate you jumping on, and the CFI gas card deposit will be made.
I appreciate it, man. I'm probably gonna scoot off here. Just wanted to come on for a moment, but I'll be in the background. See you guys.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. All right, that's the producer right there joining us in a cameo setting. We've got a lot of comments now. Okay, wow. Well, let's start talking about what you guys want to talk about here. So chat administrator says West Cabarrus defeated. I thought that was 23-22 in overtime. But anyway, West Cabarrus won the game. It was a nice comeback as they were down 16-0. That's a great job. It's a great win for West Cabarrus to get on the board. They've been close, in a couple games, and especially to come back on the road, down at halftime It's good. It's good stuff, man. All right. Damon Allen coming in with the Crest Chargers, 68-20 over Ashbrook. The machine keeps rolling. Um, I think everyone at this point is kind of waiting on that Crest Kings Mountain matchup. Even though South Point may have something to say about that, but impressive for Crest. I'm sure we'll get, some more impressive stats from all their offensive stars and um, players, and the defense stepping up and holding Ashbrook down. That's to be commended, man. That's why they're ranked number one in 3A in Friday Night Fowler's poll. Keisha, Rocky River are 2-3 now. I think they won. Let me pull that score. I think it was 37. Yep, 37-27 over East Meck last night. Happy for Coach Fernandez and his guys to get that thing rolling in the right direction for sure. Championship, the first win for West Commerce in 706 days. Good gracious. Wow. Yeah, hats off to those guys, man. Jason Bass, good to see you, man, as always. Let's see. Kim, how you doing? Nice to see you. Let's see here. Markel Riley says, loving the shake-up with Charlotte football. Not really having a dog in the fight lets me focus more on everyone else. Dub C looking real good. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that we talk about when we go places. A lot of people are asking me this year, who is the best team? And if you follow us, you know that, outside of Providence Day, it's been pretty fluid with everyone else. I mean, we felt really good about Mallard Creek after their Buford performance. And then Butler went down and they beat Langston Hughes in Georgia. And they've been playing really well. A team people haven't been talking about. I think Chambers is really playing well the last couple of weeks. I think they found some things after their opening loss to Benedictine. And Huff, played really well last night against North Meck. They won that game 52-7. Got the offense going with the young quarterback and Trey Blakeney. Defense, I think, scored at least 2 times that I saw. So things have been kind of moving around. But the one thing that I'll say is it's not one clear dominant team outside of Providence Day right now. And, I think it's refreshing in some ways. I know some people are excited about that, but then some people, appreciate, greatness too. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be really interesting. I'll tell you what's going to be really fun. Not only conference play, because we saw some great scores tonight reflective of that, but when we get into the playoffs, it's going to be even more interesting to see how these matchups play out and who's playing who, who's playing who, and where they're playing, and all of that good stuff, man. Let's see. Chad Administrator sends some scores out. Mooresville 42, Cox Mill 3, and Hickory Ridge gets into the win column on their new turf, 33-28 over A.L. Brown. All right, good stuff for those guys, man. Let's see here. West Iredell 42-41. Wow. West Iredell 4-0, man. That's great. Congratulations to West Iredell, man. It's great to see these programs that, have not won a ton starting to turn things around, get into the win column, and, really energize their school and their fan base. I mean, the way a football team performs can really transform your school. Your energy's better, the spirit's better. I mean, people are engaged. I mean, it can do a lot, man. And that's great. That's great to see for West Iredale. Awesome stuff, man. Armani Bird says, shout out to my Clover Blue Eagles for taking care of business down in Spartanburg. Yeah, I saw that. That's a big win. Go down there and beat Dorman. And I don't care if Dorman's up or down or whatever. Anytime you can go down there and get a win, it's a good stuff, man. 2-2 with the new head coach. Take it every day out of the week, man. Congratulations to Clover. Talked about them a little bit on the show this past week with their defeat of York, and now they're backing that up. So good stuff, man. Dudley big over High Point Central 63-6. A lot of people down here are saying be aware of Dudley. And then, quarterback Andrew Atmore leading that Dudley offense with all those different weapons and guys that can do some special things in space. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens in 3A with them, Crest, West Charlotte, Kings Mountain, and then on down the line, man. Heck, we can talk about Hickory and East Lincoln. Wow. 3A West, boy. I don't know who's coming out of the East, but you come out of 3A West, man, that's a championship in itself. I mean, impressive stuff in 3A. Kim, I see a question. I'm going to wait on that one for just a minute. Let's see. Josh Stacy says Kings Mountain 41-0 over Hunter Huss. And then we just mentioned Hickory over East Lincoln 49-28. That was a show. I mean, that was a game we talked about on the show. That was actually a pick'em game. And Coach Glass and Hickory, that's a statement win. East Lincoln defending champs, still very good. But Brady Stober, quarterback for Hickory, and his guys, putting up a good offensive performance is strong stuff. And now you got to look out at Hickory and think, okay, we got to add them to that 3A mix. Wow. Good stuff. Lanesha Dowd, shout out to South Mech with the victory over Olympic. Yeah, 46-33. I'm happy for Coach Evans. I've known him for a long time. Really, really, really good guy. Getting into the win column, win number 1 on the season for those guys. And then Olympic, it's a tough loss. And they're going to figure some things out defensively. Seems like offensively they're still able to, get some things done. I saw a couple of highlights, of that game. There was a big interception by South Mech to kind of put that game out of reach in the fourth quarter. So yeah, you definitely got to shout out those guys. Zay Bolden for South Mech was a big key player. He sent me some highlights of his performance, and based on what I'm seeing, he's probably going to be in Pep Man's players. So congratulations to the Sabres on getting win number 1 on the season. Trayvon Gaither, dedicated watcher, Community School Davidson, big win, 57-0 over Bishop McGinnis. That program is going to be one to watch for sure. I felt like they played well against Forest Hills, who's one of the 2A West strong candidates. I think we got to put them in that same conversation as they continue to go out there and dominate teams, when you should dominate them. And that kind of leads me to this score. I was surprised. I was surprised to see East Forsyth and Reagan be this close of a margin. I mean, Reagan is a good program. But, when you think about East Forsyth, you think about them as being one of the top programs in the state. And based on, the way things were going early season, I felt like East Forsyth would win this one by a couple touchdowns. So I give Reagan a lot of credit, man. We talked about it on the show. Conference play is a new season. And if you struggled in your pre-conference, that's how you want to tell your team, hey, we're hitting the reset button. It's 0-0. We figured some things out in the non-conference, and now we're going to do what we need to do to win our conference, because that is what can get you into the playoffs, no matter how bad your non-conference was. And you can take a look at South Mech, for example. They had a rough non-conference, but, obviously they've hit the reset button, and they're 1-0 in the conference right now. So, proof's in the pudding, man. But congrats to East Forsyth for getting the win. Shout out to Reagan for being real competitive, for sure. Have a good night, Nikisha. And you're not that old. You know better than that. Oh, chat administrator, Pine Lake 8, Mountain Island 0. Yeah. Yeah, Pine Lake won that game on a blocked punt return for a touchdown. Coach Trotter sent me some information on this game. He's the Pine Lake head coach, if you don't know who that is, when I make that reference. Let's see here. Let me get it up here. He had Ryan Conatillo had 4 sacks. Jack Smith, who was a Pet Man player, had a bunch of tackles for loss and hurries. And then Gabe Bolivar ran that block punt back for the score, who we've highlighted before. So shout out to Pine Lake, man. We know Coach Dub is our brother, but he'll have those guys ready to go next week for sure. And he'll make the correction to figure out what went wrong for those guys. This one right here was a statement. West Forsyth, 40-14 over Mount Tabor. I felt like this was going to be a really close game. We talked about it on the show. Friday night highlighted some things to watch. Tabor has some really high-level skill guys. I mean, D1, Power 5 type of players. But, we saw West Forsyth in our Jamboree in the preseason, and they have a dominant offensive line. They have a running back who has offers from Navy and other D1 programs. And their defense, I was really impressed with their defensive coordinator. I believe he came over from East Forsyth. And I said it back then. I said they're going to be a team to watch in that 3-3-6 area, and now it's bearing out. It's bearing out, and I'm excited to see them play East Forsyth. I think they play toward the end of the season. That's going to be a huge, huge game right there. All right, Joe Fairbank, North Gaston. Yeah, North Gaston 26, Forest View 20. Shout out to Coach Rothwell, JT Lattimore, and those guys. J. Vane Knox playing running back and linebacker. This is an impressive win for them. They've got it rolling a little bit. I think this is their second in a row, and they're gonna move up the Gaston County rankings, and it's really good because this goes back to, once again, what I was saying earlier. When you have programs that have struggled, starting to win games, I'm telling you, it will start getting things going. And we talk about Gaston County every week on the show, and I mean, South Point is the leader in the county, but I mean, East Gaston's undefeated right now. And now you see North Gaston starting to rise up, kind of out of that middle tier. So congrats to those guys, man. That's awesome. Good stuff. Let's see. Tim Collins, Sun Valley 5-0. Yeah. Yeah, I had a conversation about Sun Valley tonight. I sure did. And a lot of people are impressed with those guys. Brady Turf at quarterback, Martin at receiver. They say the offensive line is really stout up front and strong. Their defensive line does a good job in stopping the run and getting after the quarterback. They got enough skilled guys to hang with the big dogs out there. And yeah, chat administrator, thank you for that. They won big over Alexander Central 48-0. And I mean, people, when we do our Union County rankings, of course we were at Monroe tonight, so there were a lot of people on the sidelines asking us, where do you have this team, where you have that team. Their football in Union County is impressive, and it's going to bear out because a lot of these guys are in the same conferences, and it's going to be fun to watch. There's going to be some really good football down there. I'll tell you now, being down in Monroe, it's not going to be the only time we go to Union County. I'll tell you that much, because the last 2 nights were really fun, man. It's fun to cover good football. It's fun, and me and producer will be covering more of it. That's for sure. All right. I'm gonna go back to a earlier question that Kim asked me. We'll get it up on the screen here. My thoughts on the SOMEC conference. So we're talking about 6 teams in Charlotte here. We're talking about RGKL. We're talking about Berry, South Mech, Olympic, Myers Park, and Palisades. And, it's very interesting. This conference, when I previewed it in the preseason, I had RG Kill at 1, Olympic 2, Palisades 3, Myers Park 4, South Mech 5, and Berry 6. And right now, it's hard to say where things are going to go. We saw Olympic week 1. They dominated West Mech 42-0. And to me, at that point, I was like, wow, Olympic is ahead of where I thought they were going to be. But, they've struggled the last couple of weeks. And, they could have injuries. Well, we don't know. We don't get injury reports or anything like that. So, I do know why, Marvin Ridge struggled last night because Evan Metters got hurt early in the game. So Myers Park winning over Marvin Ridge, a lot of this stuff is hard to say because, sometimes we get inside information. Sometimes, you don't get it. Sometimes people share things with you just because, and then sometimes people want to keep things guarded. So, based on the early results of conference play, I'm impressed with Myers Park. They won the last 2 weeks. In pretty good fashion. I think their stock meter is going up, if you want to put it that way. Palisades won big over Berry. That was impressive. And then, of course, South Mech, like I said earlier, was impressive over Olympic. So, we got, some teams going in the right direction. And then others are trying to figure things out. But I'm telling you, this conference is going to be fluid. One of the things we talked about was Charlotte this year. Like I said earlier, there's no dominant team in the city. And with all 3 conferences in Charlotte, the 3 public school conferences, it's the same way. We could get into the Queen City, and then we could get into the Southwest. There's going to be some incredible matchups. So, those are my brief thoughts, on the SOMEC. Thanks for watching, Kim, as always. We got a couple more comments that have come in, and Chad Administrator is giving all the scores. We're going to go through those here in just a second. Let's go review Thursday night scores first, and then we'll get to Friday. Another game I thought was really interesting. Charlotte Catholic over Providence, 29-22. Catholic scored with 42 seconds left in that game to win it. I picked Providence. This was a pick'em game for us. I felt like it was going to be a really close game down to the wire, and it was. And then it sets up an important matchup next week with Charlotte Catholic taking on Independence. And we know how good that game was last year. That was a barn burner. So we'll talk about that on the show next week. Butler won over Garinger 70-0. We mentioned earlier Rocky River over East Mac 37-27. West Charlotte over Mile Creek 17-15. South over Olympic 46-33. Huff 52-7 over North Mecklenburg. Chambers 56. West Mech 0. Hopewell 37. Harding 12. That's another. I'm glad to see Hopewell, getting it going. I think that's their 3rd win this year. Palisades over Berry 38-6, and then Myers Park over Marvin Ridge 24-7. So that was the Thursday night action. Excuse me. And then tonight we're going to keep it to the schools we normally cover. We can talk about Hickory Ridge over A.L. Brown 33-28. West Cabarrus over South Iredale in overtime 23-22. Concord 11, East Rowan 10. Now that was interesting. That one was interesting. I'll have to try to find some information out on that one. But shout out to East Rowan. This is the second time they've been really close to pulling off an upset. That program's making progress. And I know Coach McClamrock's happy to see that. One of his former schools he was a head coach at. Indiana, another 1-point victory. They're specializing in that. 13-12 over Trinity Christian. Mount Pleasant pulls it off over West Stanley 28-20. Northwest Cabarrus was big over South Rowan 63-0. Weddington big over Chapel Hill 66-13. West Rowan over Carson 32-14. Shout out to Piedmont getting the win over Montgomery Central tonight 14-13. Glad to see those guys get into the win column. Trinity beat Union Academy 14-10. Fort Mill getting in the win column. See, this is awesome. A lot of teams that haven't won in a while getting in the win column. 25-15 over Lugoff Elgin. North Rowan went in again over South Davidson 2014. Watauga big over North Davidson 56-14. South Florence, they did it again, man. I was pulling for South Point. South Point was leading. Oh, South Florence got them in the end, 22-19. That was a big matchup in Rock Hill. Last year, South Florence beat South Point pretty good down at their place. I think 42-0. But big win for South Florence, and South Point is playing really good teams, very close. They're winning. They got a winning record, but these things will help them come playoff time, for sure. Big one. This was in our pick of Northwestern. Big over Gaffney, 49-24. Impressive for Northwestern right there. York and a barn burner over Rock Hill, 51-48. Burns, huge over Highland Tech, 74-0. My goodness. Cuthbertson remains undefeated. Shout out the Cavaliers, man. 35-0 over South Caldwell. Shelby was big, 56-0 over Turville. North Iredell winning, 33-0 over Fred T. Ford. Albemarle getting their first win on the season, 32-6 over Southwestern Randolph. Catawba Ridge falls again. Tough year for Catawba Ridge, 30-17 to Chester. Kings Mountain was big over Huss, 41-0. Crest was big. We talked about that earlier, 68-20 over Ashbrook. South Point over Stuart Kramer, 48-0. Our boy, Aaron Brand and Irmo getting it done, beating Hartsville on the road, 35-21 down in South Carolina. Bunker Hill over Lincolnton, 45-37. And then finally, we talked about him on the show, South Stanley winning again, 42-24 over Wheatmore. Their third win on the season. Shout out to Coach Schenkel and South Stanley, a program that was on the brink of being shut down. Impressive stuff, man. Impressive stuff. Good gracious. Last comment of the show, Coach Marsh. Only one undefeated team in CMS yet, and that's the West Charlotte Lions. They're the only undefeated team. So we'll shout them out once again. Joe, I'm sorry about your Gaffney. I'm sorry to hear that, man. All right. So on behalf of everybody that's not here, I'm the Pet Man, Matt Maher. We're signing off with CFI After Dark. Make sure to check us out Wednesday night, 7:30 for Football Focus Weekly. 2-hour show previewing all of your high school football needs. So everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy some football. And hopefully the Panthers can get into the win column on Monday night. Good night, everybody.